What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to Baseball As Intended, the podcast. This is episode 19. I'm your host, Yeyo, alongside my good friend, Jon. We got a lot of baseball topics to talk about. We're going to be talking about, obviously, around the league, some changes in the standings, some players that are hurt, some players that are hot. We're also going to be talking about teams that are struggling and the sellers and buyers, who's going to be selling, who's going to be buying, some players that are going to be in the trade market. We're going to talk about Strasburg, his career, his hype debut, and then start bench cut because of such a high-profile pitcher back in when he started. We're going to be talking about, the most hype debut in MLB history. Jon, how are you doing? Happy June.
Happy June, Yayo. Happy June, brother. I'm very happy. I'm having a nice, relaxing weekend. First one in a while. I haven't done too much. Went around the house. Didn't go golfing today.
I did.
My friend and co-host did not invite me to go golfing today. But that's neither here nor there. Just something I wanted to throw out there. I've put that aside. I'm ready to have a good episode.
Well, we're gonna go golfing one day together again, like we used to, and we're gonna shoot probably 200 plus combined. But it's gonna be fun.
Have you heard DJ Khaled? Have you seen DJ Khaled golfs now?
All about golf now.
And let's go golfing. Like, I love that. I heard he's a 14 handicap.
So that's the thing. I've seen the clips, and I'm like, does he edit them and just wait for the good shots? Because I see him is sink 20-foot putter.
I don't.
Yeah,
he's not doing the bad stuff. But if you look, he has like a coach with him there the whole time.
Yeah.
I think at some point I would love that. Let's go golfing.
14 handicap is pretty good. He's shooting in the mid 80s constantly, so it would be fun to go play around with DJ Khaled. It would be fun.
But he loves it, right? Like he loves all into it now. I love that.
He's all into it. Well, we love baseball. So let's talk about baseball. Let's go around the league. Not many things have changed in the standings. In the AL East, last time we talked, Toronto was in last place. Boston was fourth. Those two swap. Everything else stays the same. So Toronto has won 4 in a row. Boston has lost 2 in a row. So now Boston is 11 games out of first place. Tampa, first team to 40 wins. Boston is just 1 game above 500. We're going to be talking about maybe some buyers and sellers. That might be a team that's going to be selling. But, I don't know if you saw Aaron Judge catch in Dodger Stadium against the Dodgers, and he just ran through the wall. Yes. He's a robot. Nobody else opens that door.
You love that, but you don't. That stinks. He's having a great year, but he's not. I think they just took him out for precaution, right? Like, there's no real injury here. You're smiling because you're a Red Sox fan. You're like, here we go. This is the start.
No. Aaron Judge is good for baseball, right? I just think
great.
I don't know. They took him out of the lineup the very next day, but he's probably fine. He already had a little bit of an injury earlier, so I don't know. There's always that question mark with Aaron Judge. I feel like last year was the first and only year that he was fully healthy the whole time.
So, and you see what he did, right? Which is like, let's keep him healthy. I was thinking about it. Your Red Sox are better than my Mets right now. And I feel like my Mets are in the race, even though I'm not happy with it. And you guys are dead last.
Done. We're out.
Tough.
Yeah.
Well,
no, they're out. Pitching is not there. You need pitching. Inconsistent hitting. They got like 6 lefties every time you go out. I don't know. Yoshida is a good shining bright spot there for the Red Sox. But other than that,
still a lot of baseball to go.
Yeah,
I won't let you give up that. So 4.5 back in the wild card.
Thank you. Go Red Sox. Let's go, baby. Okay. Anyways, AL Central. The only thing that changed, we talk about Detroit being second there. Now Cleveland is second. They're tied with Detroit for second place. Minnesota still first place. But, Carlos Correa has missed 4 of the last 5 with plantar fasciitis. We saw what happened with Carlos Correa in the offseason, right? He didn't pass physicals. And it was something with his leg. This is foot related, but is it related? Sometimes when you're hurt, when you hurt a knee or an ankle,
you start to compensate.
Is that what's happening?
I don't know what's happening, but you know who's breathing a real big sigh of relief right now?
A lot of people.
2 people. The doctors the doctor for the Mets and the doctor for the Giants. Because if Carlos Correa went out and absolutely dominated this year, yeah, I mean, would have been awesome. Happy for him, happy for the Twins, but those guys would have been a little bit nervous. I think, and people disagree. I do think it's all related. I do. He's injury prone with that leg, the bottom part of the leg, like it's splitting hairs at this point. Like you said, I think that he had a plate in there. They said there would be no room if he really got hurt to make many adjustments. And hopefully that's not the case. But one, he's had a really bad year. And so far he's injured. Twins are still hanging around. I mean, they would love, I think if there's a way that you just sit him out and get him as healthy as you can for a little bit, I think they have to do that because it's starting to look like they have a real chance in that division. But I don't know if you can really even get him healthy at this point. It feels like he's been trying to play through something all year, basically.
I mean, he started off healthy, right? We thought he was healthy, but he's been struggling. So then somebody of that caliber, you start thinking maybe he wasn't 100%. Maybe that's the reason why he's hitting 195, 205, whatever it is.
Right.
Not much pop. I don't know. Do you have to take care of him because you signed him long term? Even though we talked about it, that it was a good deal for Minnesota bringing him back, you still have some insurance there because there's like, you know, the opt-outs and whatnot. But
right,
I don't know. You're going to need Correa if you're going to make a run at the postseason.
The opt-outs are for him, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He's not opting out anywhere now.
He's going to get his $35 million, whatever, every year. So
yeah, guaranteed money.
Yeah, not much has changed there. AL West, Texas is rolling. They are here to stay. They're for real. Nathan Eovaldi was named pitcher of the month for the month of May in the AL. Houston is still obviously there. They're still good. 7-3 in the last 10. They're 3.5 back. Angels in Seattle flip-flop 3rd and 4th. Now Angels are in 3rd place. Seattle is in 4th. But Seattle's 1 game below 500. The Angels are 1 game above 500. We're going to be talking about trade targets, and this is one that everybody's going to be talking about, right? With the Angels, what are they going to do? But obviously, Oakland is Oakland. Maybe they'll have a piece or two to trade, but Texas, they're good.
I think this is, if you're the Astros, this is probably the first time they're a little bit concerned because it was always wait till we get hot, you know? And we all agreed, well, when they get hot, you know, the Astros can catch anybody. They've been pretty hot. And they have not really made up any ground. The Eovaldi, like you said, I think in his last 7 starts, he has a .68 ERA. And then we were looking earlier at the list of the top runs scored in the American League. 4 out of the top 5 are on the Rangers. So their pitching is giving them what they need. And then with an eye towards our next segment, the trade targets, I think Ohtani gets moved sooner rather than later.
Well, don't get too ahead of yourself. We'll get there. Now, I wanted to say, you remember what did I just say? That Boston needed pitching? You know, they've been weak at pitching. Eovaldi was a Red Sox. And yeah, anyways.
No, not the same guy. Not from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that wasn't the, well, he was like that in 2018. He helped us that big 5-6 inning performance in that extra inning game. But anyways, NL East, your Mets still in 3rd place. Miami still in 2nd, playing very good baseball. They won 3 in a row. Atlanta is still Atlanta. They've won 2 in a row. They're still in 1st place by 3.5 games. Philly kind of struggling still against teams that they should beat, you would think. But Luis Arraez, I think, is hitting 395. And we've talked about him before because he started off hitting like 500. We did say like if anybody had a chance at, you know, obviously he's been a batting champion before, but if anybody had a chance at hitting 400, it was him. He's toying around with 400. If you had to bet, will he get it?
If I had to bet that he would get it, I would not. But I would. If you gave me some good odds,
plus 400,
I would take a chance.
Plus 400. If it's batting 400, I'll give you plus 400 odds. Yeah,
You're trying to sucker me. I would think about it. I mean, this guy's a hitting machine. He's an absolute hitting machine, and we're in June right now. And he just went 5 for 5, and you said it when we talked off air. That stadium is built for him. He's getting doubles like crazy. Yeah. He goes down the line in the gaps. He's gotten better hitting. I mean, he was a good hitter when he started. He was hitting 300. But if you look year by year, his average has just increased every year. So he's 26. He's been figuring out as he goes. I would love to see him make a run at 400. Would you not?
Hype?
So I look.
Whew.
Oh, it would be amazing. And they're playing really well. So before I ask you this, right now the Marlins are looking like they're trying to catch the Braves. I mean, everyone's trying, right? But they look like they're 3.5 back right now. They got a 3-game series coming up against Kansas City, and then they play the White Sox. They stay hot. If they're
careful
2.5, 1.5 back in a week or so, I mean, that it's gonna start getting really fun if you like the Marlins. But I want to see our eyes hover around that 400 mark. And you were gonna say something. Go ahead, Yeyo.
So a couple things with the Marlins. I think they're gonna need Sandy. Sandy has to figure it out. You need Cy Young Sandy for them to really make a push because Atlanta is not stopping anytime soon. Their slumps are just better than, they're better when slumping than most teams, anyways. What I think is most impressive about Luis Arraez, I have his Baseball Savant page right here.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of blue. And what that tells me is that he just literally puts the ball on the ball and he knows exactly where he wants it. He's not even trying to hit it hard. Average exit velocity, 34 percentile. Max exit velocity, 7 percentile. Hard hit percentage, 2 percentile. Barrel percentage, 5. That's insane. But then he doesn't strike out. K percentage, 100%. Whiff percentage, 100%. So that bat to ball, it just has that. But he's just like a hitting machine. He just knows where to play it. He hits it all over the place. So the defense cannot just try to stop something because he can hit it anywhere. He'll just hit it where you pitch.
I was just going to say that. He's one of those guys that still hits it where it's pitched. So if he sees an opportunity to dunk it down the line, he's doing that. It doesn't matter the exit velo. He can aim where he's hitting the ball, right? To some degree.
Hard to do.
He gets up there, he looks at the alignment, and he's finding the holes, which is crazy. So let me ask you this. Do you remember in recent memory who's gotten closest to 400? All-time great batting average guy.
Wasn't it early 2000s?
Tony Gwynn.
Late 90s?
94.
Mid-90s,
94, 97. He hit 394.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah. That was
which is crazy. I think pitching is even better now. I'm not saying Luis Arraez is Tony Gwynn, but if he can keep it up right there, I mean, this is gonna go down as a wild season.
If pitching is better now, if Luis Arraez hit 375, is it more impressive that Tony Gwynn 394? We'll come back to that. Because if you look at the baseball reference page for Tony Gwynn, is insane. He was so good.
Yeah,
we can't do that.
Stats. No, we can't. We can't. We'll be here all day.
And we're not gonna be here all day, especially not about the National League Central. There's not much to say. Milwaukee's still in first place, half a game in front of Pittsburgh. A couple electric games in Pittsburgh. Felt a little bit of a playoff atmosphere there.
Yes,
that's as close as it's been in a while. They still got the Reds, Cubs, and Cardinals. Cardinals are still struggling. They're 7 back of that division lead.
We're waiting, but
it's not happening.
It may not happen. It may not happen.
We'll talk about buyers and sellers in just a second. But Cardinals, NL West, Dodgers, Arizona. So Arizona was first place last night. I think, now they're half a game behind the Dodgers. So that's a battle. They're at the top. You got the Giants, Padres, sellers maybe, and Colorado. I'm in love as a baseball player with Corbin Carroll. That guy is a stud. He hit his 10th home run. He has 16 stolen bases. He's tracking down fly balls that nobody else can get to. He's electric to watch. So I'm excited about Arizona. What do you got in the NOS?
Yeah, he's a big part of it. I mean, to me, this feels like the Central, or I'm sorry, the AL West. It feels the same. The top 2 teams, I think it's going to be Dodgers, Diamondbacks. To me, the Giants are kind of like the Angels. They're not playing bad. I don't think that they can catch those 2 teams. But I do think Arizona hangs around till the very end. Like you said, it's been a flip-flop in the last 2 days. I can see them trading, first place a lot down the stretch.
Yeah. We're just not used to seeing them.
You think Arizona takes it? You think Arizona takes it this
So
year?
that's the thing. I think experience matters, and I think some of the Dodgers players have been there, right? Mookie, Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
You still got Kershaw dealing. So they got a lot of experience over there in LA. Arizona doesn't have that, even though they do have Evan Longoria. That's their veteran guy. That's why they brought him in. It seems like it's working. So it's tough for me to pick them over the Dodgers. It will be fun. They're still going to be a fun team to watch all the way through, you know?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. All right. So with that, there's a lot of teams. We're 2 months into the season. That means we're 2 months away from the trade deadline. It gets crazy. Right. Obviously, we're probably a month and a half away from starting to see some of these trades, but there's a lot of teams that are thinking already about sellers, right? About being sellers. We're talking about Boston. You know, Boston is 11 games back at the division. Are they gonna sell? But they're not that far off from the wild card. They're only 4.5 back from a wild card. So I don't know. From the AL East, we got AL Central, White Sox, Royals, Detroit, maybe Cleveland is still there. They got some pieces. AL West, we talked about Ohtani, maybe the Mariners. Oakland is always gonna be a seller. There's just not much there, anyways. NL East.
Hopefully they sell the team.
Oh, yeah. And NL East. I see what you did there. NL East.
Thank you.
You got the Mets, which I think they have to be buyers if the Angels are sellers. They're going to go after Ohtani. It just makes sense. Philly, though. Philly got some nice pieces that they can trade. Washington is young. I don't think they have much, but they're going to be looking to trade whoever young talent they got. We mentioned the Cardinals. And then San Diego. So I think some of the key teams, San Diego, Cardinals, White Sox are going to have a lot of names out there. And obviously the Angels. What are some thoughts about the trade deadline? What are some guys that you're seeing or thinking that they could get traded?
So to start off, it's going to be with the obvious one, but I have a question with you. So I think the Angels are getting close to thinking they're not going to compete, even though they've had a decent year. And I think Ohtani gets moved. But the trade deadline is August 2nd. If you trade him a month from now, 2 weeks from now, even, you know, not that close to the deadline, I think you can get a lot more for him, you know? So I think there's a balancing act with the Angels of, hey, we'll give you Ohtani now and you can have him for the rest of the year, but you got to give us more back. Or do they say, well, we want to see how this next month and a half goes and we'll trade him right at the deadline? Do you think he gets moved significantly before the deadline? I kind of think he does.
I don't know. I think the reason why I said that.
Do you think they're about to be sellers soon? I think they're really close.
I think there will be sellers. You cannot just let Ohtani walk. I don't think that's something that they're gonna do. You're gonna have to trade Ohtani, get something back, and whatever you get is gonna be a big package. But I also think it might be like, hey, Mets are going to trade for him and we'll sign you. You're going to be one of those sign and trade deals kind of thing where we're trading, we're giving up, because you're not going to give up the farm for half a year, especially where like the Mets are in the bubble, right? They're like, they don't know if they're going to make
out this year, even with him.
Exactly. You want him more for the future. So I think, you know, they'll look into maybe signing him as they trade him, but I think it's still too early for them. I still think they want to give themselves another month or so. And if they do trade Ohtani, I think it'll be closer to the deadline.
I have a feeling it'll be not that close. That's my guess.
You think
I don't
it'll be
know
sooner
why.
than later?
Especially if they go, I mean, right now they're 4.5 back of the wild card. It's a tough situation because that wild card is probably going to come either from one of the two teams in front of them, the Astros or the Rangers, or from the American League East. So that number is almost deceiving. I don't know that they can really get a wild card spot. If they're 7 back in a month from that spot, I don't know why they wait, to be honest with you. But it'll be interesting. I just think they can get a little more if they tell a team, hey, you're going to get an extra month of him. No. But that's the weird thing with this extra wild card spot as well. A lot of the teams still feel like they're in it, and you really don't know. But the other team that I think is just an open buffet where it's like a garage sale, come get who you want. Someone you mentioned is the White Sox.
Yeah.
The White Sox, because they have a lot of good players. They do. They're also not doing anything, and they haven't done anything with this team in a long time. And so that's going to be a really interesting mix to see who they let go, because there's a lot of players on that team that can help other teams down the stretch. And so if they really decide to fly open and say, hey, we're cleaning house, a lot of teams are going to get really good players. They will impact the playoff race in a way with who they let go.
Yeah, and if you think about the Sox, so they got pitching wise, they got somebody like Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease, Cy Young candidate last year. Think about possible landing spots. I think about the Orioles in the playoff race. Yep. They'll take a pitching to help that team out. The Rays have been hurt, and they're still 42-15, whatever they are. But they don't mind adding some arms there as well. You got to think, obviously, the Astros, Dodgers, those teams are always going to be in the hunt for those. You got guys like Yasmani Grandal, Tim Anderson. The White Sox, everybody is going to go. Like, everybody. So there's going to be bats. Jock Peterson over in San Francisco. You know it's tough to find those big lefty bats. That's going to be a team or a guy that's going to be, I think, on the way out. I think you got to look at the unrestricted free agents. That's the players that are going to get traded.
So 100% they're going.
Yep. So looking at the list, we got Jock Peterson. We got Yasmani Grandal. Charlie Blackmon, not sure if he has anything left. He's been there forever. I don't think he's going to get traded. Evan Longoria is in a good situation there. Eduardo Rodriguez is pitching great, but Detroit's kind of in the hunt. He has an opt-out after this year. Josh Hader, baseball is intended. The San Diego is almost out of it. That's an arm that everybody will be willing to give up a lot to get. Is he on his way out?
And the thing with Josh Hader is you can already have an established closer. You can have a really good closer and say, we still want Josh Hader, because in the playoffs, you need that 8th and 9th inning. A lot of games are lost trying to get to your closer. There's a lot of teams. I think I'm interested to see if the Marlins become buyers, not big buyers, but for one specific piece. If they're really in the hunt, August 2nd, 2 months left to go. They're a team that thought they were probably a year or two away. Maybe they're not. Do they then kind of go for someone just like that, a Josh Hader, anyone that they feel that they can get good value on? Because I don't know how much you have to give up to get Josh Hader, to be honest with you. Like you said, he's unrestricted free agent, right? If the Padres, two months of Josh Hader, you're giving up a prospect, right? A young major league ready guy that you're not sold on. It's not like Ohtani. You don't always have to trade away the farm to get someone that can make a big impact for this year. Hader's a great name that you threw out there.
I mean, those teams are going to try to get something back just to avoid, just
getting nothing.
Chapman is out there. He's back. He's throwing 103, 104. Blake Snell with the Padres. That's another, pitchers. It feels like it's always pitchers and lefty bats for some reason.
Yeah.
So there's a few of those. I don't know. I think it's going to be a very interesting and busy trade deadline because, there's a lot of good teams on paper that were supposed to be better and not underperforming. Cardinals, right? Somebody like Tyler O'Neill, maybe somebody will be like, hey, 2020 Tyler O'Neill was very good, or 21, whatever it was.
Right. Let's see if we can catch lightning in a bottle.
Somebody like a Tampa that figures they know things more than others. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in that trade deadline. It's going to be interesting.
And there's even more, just to piggyback on that. You can get some of these guys that have good splits against righties or lefties, and you just want to platoon them. The Mets did that with Vogelback and Daniel Ruff, last year. It didn't necessarily work out. Vogelback was pretty good for them, but they literally just wanted him in for specific situations. And a lot of the teams that are good are going to look for that, and they know what their holes are. We may have an idea of what it is, but they look for those specific pieces. And I think a lot of the teams right now that are buyers might be sellers by the trade deadline. And teams that are selling right now will look back at it. Again, we keep waiting for the Cardinals, but there's a good chance the Cardinals maybe climb back into it, and it's a different conversation. So it's something to keep an eye on it. But it's a nice little preview because you do have an idea now where teams stand.
We are kind of halfway there, right? We're 2 months in, 2 months away. 2 months into the season, 2 months away from the trade deadline. So it's a good thing to talk about. Good thing to keep an eye out.
We're smart guys. We're smart guys. We're thinking about it. We're thinking about it.
Yeah, call us. We'll work for we'll be a GM. Why not? Steven Strasburg. We got some sad news out of Washington. He was diagnosed with a severe nerve damage, right? I guess not diagnosed. He's been hurt, what it feels like the last 3 years.
Right.
Severe nerve damage. He was shut down for the whole year, and they don't know if he's going to be able to pitch again. Steven Strasburg, was on that Nationals team that won the title a few years back in 2019. What's the first thing you think about when Steven Strasburg? What are your thoughts about his career? Talk to me about Steven Strasburg.
When I think about Strasburg, I still think about all the hype when he was in college. I think he was at San Diego State. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing, this guy's, and this is before everyone threw 100, this guy's throwing 100 plus, and he's going to be the first pick of the draft, and he's going to dominate for years to come. And there was chatter about that for a long time before he even pitched in the big leagues. And then when you get to the big leagues, it's a little bit more up and down. Now, he has the accomplishments in that 2019 season to hang his hat on. He was absolutely dominant, and they won a World Series, and he was a big part of it. You can never take that away from him. After that, it's been all downhill. When I think about it, what I struggle with is, do you feel like he had a disappointing career? Or did he have, did he achieve what he should have achieved, overachieve, underachieve? Like, what's the taste left in your mouth from Strasburg's career?
I think, did he meet, we think about the greatest athletes of all time that have gotten that attention since high school, since college. We think about the LeBron James. He exceeded expectations. Bryce Harper, he's going to be in our start bench cut. We'll talk about him, but Bryce Harper has met those expectations. Steven Strasburg did not meet the expectations because when you think about the longevity of the career, but when he was healthy, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. Right. 3-time All-Star. He never had an ERA. His worst year as far as ERA was 3.74. The problem is that he only had 2 years of 200 plus innings, But every year when he was healthy, he was dominant. He was very good for a Washington team. So it's just one of those what could have been kind of thing. Like when you think about the Grant Hill. I remember Grant Hill growing up. I'm like, oh my God, he's so good. Injuries kind of held him back a bit. Right. So there's always those athletes that they never meet their full potential. And I think he met his full potential. I just don't think he was able to show it for so long. But 113 wins, 62 losses, 3.24 career ERA. That's very solid.
That's nasty.
That's very solid. He signed a 7-year, $245 million contract in 2020. And he's pitched, 30 innings since then?
That's crazy. That's crazy. And
do you feel he just left everything out in 2019? 2019, he pitched 209 innings. So he led the league there. He led the league in wins with 18. And then he had a very deep, obviously deep and very good postseason run.
Yeah.
He left it all out there. So the only thing that makes sense in my brain is that he left it all there.
Yeah, I've never known how that works because you get a lot of guys that do that and they bounce back just fine. And then you get guys that do it and they're never the same. I mean, for me, Matt Harvey comes to mind. He had that run after an injury. There was an innings cap. I mean, you have to do it. Strasburg did the right thing, and he's got his moment of glory, which I'm really happy for. He had a legendary run that postseason that he was everything anyone ever said he would be. Like you said, no one was ever wrong about the talent with Strasburg. You never watched him pitch when he was healthy and say, I don't know what the hype was about this guy. Like, you always saw it. Unfortunately, injuries will affect your legacy. That, it's a big asterisk. It's not, something done to be mean. It's just the reality. You're not out there as much. But yeah, I think he's done. I think he's done. There was reports coming out from Washington saying basically he doesn't travel with the team anymore. He rarely shows up to home games, which I'm not even blaming him. I mean, the guy hasn't pitched in forever. He's not getting any better. There's, I don't know what the point is in him showing up. But the guy got paid. He got rewarded for bringing them a World Series or being a part of bringing them a World Series. Yeah. The check's still clear in the bank.
He might be mentally and physically done, where physically he's not 100%. He's getting all this bad news. And then it's like mentally to get over that is probably tough, So he's probably like, you know what? I'll keep getting my 30 million or whatever it is a year. And I'm sorry, I gave it my all. The year before, 2019. So in 2018, he pitched 130 innings. So he went from 130
Huge
to
jump.
209 plus the postseason. That happens. And you mentioned Matt Harvey, and we've seen it in one game performance. And I'm sorry to bring up the Mets, but Johan Santana threw a no-hitter with like 140 pitches.
Right.
And it feels like he was never the same after that. So, that's why there's so many things in place for pitchers and everything. They have, it's all scientific data and all this information that they have to try to avoid this same situation. Now, some guys are just more injured
some
than
guys
others.
it doesn't happen for. Yeah, some guys can throw forever. And who knows? Maybe, I don't know. It's hard because the guy battled injuries a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys battled injuries a lot. We look at DeGrom, right? DeGrom's battled injuries his whole career. You can't really attribute it to any sort of deep run or, like we're saying, leaving it all on the table.
I don't know.
One thing. It's
yeah. Go ahead. Okay, 1, 2. Good. You're so cute. I was just gonna say, like, I obviously world champion. That's something that's gonna be kind of like what probably his most impressive or the most thing that he's proud of, right? Like his proudest moment was being a champion. But I remember that debut night in Washington where he struck out 14. That was electric. That was electric. I know you watched it too, and I think obviously that's the reason why we're doing the start bench cut is going to be the most hyped debut based on Steven Strasburg. We're not going to add Steven Strasburg to the start bench cut because, in my opinion, he would have beat all. Like, that's one of the most hyped.
He's actually our winner. We wanted to make it kind of competitive.
Yeah, he would have. We would have started him because when you're a pitcher, it's easier, right, to steal the show because you have the ball every inning. When you're a hitter, you have to come up to the plate every 2-3 innings. It's different. But start bench cut of the week, most hyped.
I love it.
MLB debuted. We got Vladdy, 2019, as a 20-year-old. Obviously, all the hype. Vladdy's little Vladdy. Vladdy's son. He went 1 for 4 with a double. We got Bryce Harper. We mentioned him about, the hype that he was coming from high school. He was a 19-year-old when he debuted in 2012. He had a double as a 19-year-old. It's crazy to think about. And same with Andrew Jones when it wasn't his debut, but the World Series, we were talking about that. As a 19-year-old hitting 2 home runs in Yankee Stadium in the World Series or whatever. Crazy. And then Shohei Ohtani, 2018. He didn't pitch that game in his debut. He had a single. He pitched 3 days after. Obviously now these are 3 superstars in baseball, right? I think that's part of it, right? Like sometimes you might be hyped and then if you never see or hear from them again, it's kind of like, well, I remember that debut. But these 3 are 3 guys that are established in the league and everything. Start wherever you want. Start, bench, or cut. Who you got?
So I'll go with start. So my favorite out of these debuts, and I'm going when we go I gotta explain my logic here. I'm going pregame. What I was most hyped about pregame, not so much what happened in the game. It's not greatest debuts. It's most hyped debuts. For me, it was Bryce Harper, because Bryce Harper was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was like 15 or 16 years old, and they said this guy's gonna be the #1 overall pick one day, and he's gonna be one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And when I see that, I kind of scoff a little bit. I'm like, you don't know that. People develop differently and all that. But then he stayed in the news. So he was on Sports Illustrated, and he was playing college baseball somehow at 16, 17 years old. Everyone else is hitting with metal bats. He's 17 hitting with a wood bat, and they're showing the ball land across the street. And you're like, all right, he's still on track to be this mega superstar. Nationals get him. Nationals were still new, right? They're an expansion franchise. This was going to be their savior. 19 years old, they called him up. I was fired up for that. And that was the time when he did everything. He ran, he still has the arm, but he was like 5-tool player. And I remember he had a double, hustled over to second. It was awesome. And to me, he has, like you said earlier, I don't know if you can exceed the expectations that he had because they were mile high, but he has met the expectations, which is wild to do when they're on you for so long. But that to me was hype because I was like, maybe this is the Jordan, of MLB baseball, and this is his debut at 19. and it's come pretty close. I mean, when he's healthy, he's been one of the best players in baseball for his entire career.
It's one of those things where you're like, I gotta watch his debut because I want to look back in 25 years and say, like, I remember his first game.
Yes.
I'll start with my bench. I'll start with who I'm gonna bench because you mentioned Bryce Harper.
Is that even allowed?
Yeah.
Is that even allowed?
I'll bench.
You just pick the middle one.
I pick whoever you pick. That was who I was gonna start, or start my. Anyways, I'll bench Bryce Harper. Again, start bench cut. We always say how difficult it is, but just I think one of them was a little bit more hyped around the whole coverage around the whole thing. We'll get to that, but I think Bryce Harper. It was electric. It was fun. I think the fact that he was 19 years old, obviously, it felt like we've seen him for years because we did.
Right.
He was 15. I remember that clip at the home run derby in Tampa where nobody knew where the ball landed. It was like, what is this kid on? And yeah, it was a very fun debut for sure, and the coverage around it. I do think that I'm gonna start Vladdy. That Vladdy hype was like almost something I've never seen before. He was the best hitting prospect baseball has had in like the past 20, 30 years. Obviously coming from a Hall of Famer, his dad being a Hall of Famer. It was in Toronto where we know how electric it gets. He was going to be their savior. He was the one that's going to put Toronto baseball back on the map. He has done that, right? Finished second in the MLB a couple of years ago. He's still destroying baseball. He's so good still. He played third base in his debut. He made a play there. He showed the arm. Now he's playing first base. He won a Gold Glove there. But Vladdy's coverage, like I remember every at bat was shown everywhere. And it was just a lot of hype. So I'm gonna go ahead and start Vladdy.
Okay, that was an interesting one for me. Vladdy's actually, well, I guess Vladdy's my cut for me.
It is the most recent one, so maybe there's something to that, right? Like the Harper one was 11 years ago. But yeah, Vladdy for me.
Yeah, I got Ohtani as my bench because to me Ohtani was like this myth coming from overseas. They're like, this guy is the best baseball player on the planet and you've never seen him. And he's the best pitcher in his league, and he's going to be the best pitcher here. And also, by the way, he can hit, and he may be one of the best hitters. And it was just something that I was like, I got to see this guy. And how am I going to see it? Opening day, his MLB debut. So that was something to me. It was almost just something out there that was like, this is a rumor. This can't be real. I got to see it for myself. And again, talk about expectations. He's met the expectations. Not that really factors into this, but it's just crazy to think about. Like you said, we have 3 superstars here who have met the expectations. The Vladdy one for me was not, I don't know why. We're usually on the same page about a lot of this stuff. It wasn't as hyped up in my mind. I just kind of felt like he was going to come up and rake like he did in the minors, and he's done that. But the other ones to me had a little more of a backstory. But 3 really big debuts that in the end, in the long term, where we are right now, those are 3 of the best players in the game.
Yeah, I think for me, the reason why I'm benching Ohtani is because we knew him about like this myth, like he's just different. He's a robot because he does both things. And in his debut, he only hit. I wanted to see him pitch. He pitched, like I mentioned, 3 days later. And he showed up, right? I just looked it up. He retired 14 of the 15 batters he faced. Fastball topped at 99.6, struck out 6, walked 1 through 92 pitches. Like he dominated on the mound, right? He was I remember that first year was kind of wild. Some games where he walked a lot of people, but that was the beginning of what we're seeing now as the modern day Babe Ruth. If they would have started him like what they do now, where you're pitching, you're hitting, that would have probably been my
incredible.
Start. Yeah. That would have probably been my start.
Crazy thing about Ohtani. So we're East Coast guys, right? We're on the East Coast. And I know we talk about this sometimes just because of the scheduling and all that. Some guys, at least in our mind, get lost over there in the West Coast, right? We've even said that Mike Trout has maybe suffered a little bit, not from necessarily not thinking he's been the best player in baseball, but just in your mind, he suffered from a little West Coast bias. that has not affected Ohtani at all, right? Ohtani has never played anywhere other than the Angels, and he is a bona fide superstar. He's one of the most. He may be the most recognized. Do you think he's the most recognizable name in baseball?
So that's the thing. He is a world. He's not a baseball star. He's a world star now. Like it feels like, obviously WBC just, I don't know. Obviously, you see a lot of Japanese players go play in the West Coast because it's easier for Japan to watch their games. We've seen that before. Right. Ichiro played in Seattle forever. But he's just bigger than that, right? Like he's a name. Yeah. And what he's doing, that people want to see that because they may never see it again. I know I watch it. Every time he's on the ball, I'm like, I'm going to try to stay up until 1 o'clock. Maybe thanks to the pitch clock, it's not going to be 1 o'clock. It'll be done at 12:30. But, I want to watch him pitch and dominate. It's just fun. It's just fun to watch it. It's a must-watch baseball.
He's a superstar. Frustrating for us. Baseball doesn't have, might get a little bashed for saying this. In the world of sports, baseball doesn't have too many superstars. At least not anymore. I mean, you remember guys like McGuire, Sosa, that captured like the sporting world's attention. Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, those names transcended just baseball. I don't know that baseball has too many of those guys anymore. Aaron Judge is up there a little bit, but again, he's in New York, and that kind of just seems to help. You see him on, talk shows and all that stuff. But I think Ohtani's a bona fide superstar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be awesome seeing him in Queens
he's
later this year.
Okay, well, he is the face of baseball, right? He is the face of baseball right now because what he's doing is unheard of. Obviously, Judge is also, like, I think we have a faces of baseball, right? Like when we
do.
We have multiple. It's kind of like a Mount Rushmore, and that's better. That's better because it doesn't. Not everything falls on one guy. So I think it's better for their sport. More marketing. We've seen some of these players doing it. They got their YouTube channels now and podcasts and all this, so they're doing their part. But yeah, fun stuff. Anything you want to add? You want to walk us off for episode 19?
No, nothing to walk off, but I'm into, the Mets are really letting me down. I'm trying to see how close the Marlins get between now and next week in our next episode. And I want to see if the Rangers can keep hanging on. Those two races have me really, really intrigued because I'm really surprised. I mean, technically, I think you could say the AL East is more exciting in a way because it's just so wild and you keep expecting the Yankees to come in. Yeah, but I would love to see the Marlins out of nowhere kind of jump the Phillies, jump the Mets, compete in that division, see what they do. And the Rangers, like you said, they're now for real. I mean, there's not. It's just a matter of how good are the Astros going to be the rest of the way. That's what I'm watching.
You really hate the Braves, huh? You really would rather anybody but the Braves. Yeah, I see it. It's okay.
I don't hate the Braves. I hate their fans.
Well, okay. On that note, Braves fans, we're going to end episode 19. Again, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Rate it and follow it on Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Follow us on all social media. You can see it there. But this is Yeyo. We will see you for the next one, episode 20. We're out.
Adios.